My name is Axel Feitengruber. Together with my colleague Andreas Kress, we are moderating this webinar and we represent Climate Alliance, one of the partners in the PROTECT project. PROTECT is a 2-year horizon project with various European partners working together to support urgent action for climate adaptation, mitigation, and resilience. Its aim is to enable public authorities to use state-of-the-art public procurement approaches in order to identify solutions, in this case, climate services based on Earth observation that best fit the specific needs of the public demand. Now we have climate services on the one hand and innovative procurement, and on the other hand, we have sustainable energy and climate action plans. And this webinar has the aim to bridge the gap between those two and show you the benefits of combining them. And for this, we will kick off the webinar with our procurement expert, Ana Lucia Jaramillo from Corvus Procurement Services. She's an expert on public procurement, especially in European public procurement law. And she will give us an introduction to pre-commercial procurement. Oh, sorry, we have to change to the agenda. Here you can see the agenda for the day. On the left side, you have some important abbreviations, which will come up a lot. So we will try to use the full name as often as possible, but sometimes it's quicker to use these abbreviations. And after that, after Ana Lucia, we will continue, my colleague Andreas and I, and we will show some methods how Earth observation and public procurement can be integrated into sustainable energy and climate action plans. After that, Joanna Roska from Aerospace Valley, which is a competitive cluster for aeronautics and the space sector, will provide us some insight into what Earth observation is and what it could provide, especially for these CCAPs. And following her at the end, we have our project coordinator, Melissa Campagno from GAC, which is an international innovation consultancy firm with a great amount of knowledge on EU-level corporations. And she will give a brief presentation about the PROTECT project and focusing on the upcoming Horizon PCP call. And at the very end, there will be 20 minutes of questions and answers where you can ask your questions. But if you have some understanding problems, you can just raise your hand in these presentations, and then we will try to answer your questions right away. All right, that would be it from my side. So please, Ana Lucia, you can begin.
Thank you very much, Axel. Good morning with everybody. Today we're going to have a presentation about what are pre-commercial procurement and public procurement of innovative solutions and what are the opportunities for the sustainable energy climate action plans. So let's see, we will start with an agenda. Briefly, we will look into what is public procurement, what is innovation procurement, and the two modalities, that's PCP and PPI. And then we will go into more in depth into PCP and analyze the legal framework. The same thing for PPI. We'll see what is PPI, when and how to apply it, and the legal framework. And afterwards, we will have some examples in order to showcase pre-commercial procurement and how pre-commercial procurement can support CCAPs. Finally, we'll have some conclusions and lessons learned. So let's go. What is public procurement? Well, as you know, public procurement is a process by which the public authorities, like the government department, local authorities, municipalities, they purchase works, goods, or services from companies that they have selected for this process. Let's think about, for example, buying furniture or building cleaning or giving maintenance to rail stations. So all of these are services or works that public procurement or public authorities procure and purchase using public funds. So because of using public funds, there are some rules that we need to comply, and we can go to the next slide. we need to comply. This is why public procurement is regulated, because we need to ensure that these public funds are spent honestly and efficiently on the basis of a good and sound assessment, without any favoritism or any quid pro quo, financial or politically, as it has been mentioned by the opinion of the Advocate Generals in the case C19 of 2000. At EU level, what is the main purpose of this regulation on public procurement is that the community harmonization in order to ensure the free market. So these are some concepts that are fundamental to understand procurement and why is it important to regulate it? Why can we need to make the best use of public funds? Next slide, please. But there's also a strategic role of public procurement. That means that public authorities can use the procurement in a manner that can give more value to each euro that is spent in order to contribute, for example, to a more innovative way of doing things, of providing services, more sustainable. We are now changing and transitioning to a more green and sustainable way of doing things. So that's something that can be achieved also through this strategic use of public procurement. So next slide, please. So that is very important how we use these instruments. So now that we know about the general basis on procurement and the importance of using it in a strategic way, let's look into what is innovation procurement and the two modalities. So what is innovation procurement? When does it happen? And it happens when the public buyers acquire the development or the deployment of pioneering innovative solutions to address specific mid to long-term public sector needs. So it's looking into the future and how can we innovate and improve the services. And we ask whether there are solutions in the market or not. And this is when we come to pre-commercial procurement or public procurement of innovative solutions. So when we have the pre-commercial procurement, we are buying the R&D services to develop the solutions because these solutions are not yet available in the market. They're at lower tier levels. And when the solutions are closer to the market, we're talking about public procurement of innovative solutions. That means the deployment of commercial volumes of end products, and it means the wide diffusion of newly developed solutions. So we will see more in depth what pre-commercial procurement is and how we apply it. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So when we're talking about innovation procurement, we're thinking about also how to implement these projects. And there are step-by-step methodologies that work as a standard, especially from the European perspective. In the context of the European Assistance for Innovation Procurement, there has been a step-by-step methodology developed to guide and provide guidance to public buyers on how to implement PCP or PPI. So we start at the research of latent needs. Then we go to the next step, to the needs assessment and prioritizations that can be done using different techniques. Once the needs have been described and prioritized, then we go to the step of the state-of-the-art analysis, when we have the overview of the relevant patents and standards and literature, and overview also of innovative suppliers and what the market can actually offer in order to know which technology readiness level, at which technology readiness level the solutions that would be potentially useful to tackle the unmet needs are. And in this phase, we see, you can see the technology readiness levels and the relationship with the procedures, the procurement procedures that you can use. So pre-commercial procurement, we apply this approach to purchase research and development services for the solution design, the prototype development, and the testing of those prototypes. So normally within the technology readiness 3 and 8, and we're talking about public procurement of innovative solutions, we're talking about higher tier levels. Perhaps it could be from 7 until 9, including, for example, the testing of prototypes. In the case of innovation partnership, that is an award procedure established in the procurement directives, we see that there's a bundling of R&D and also the deployment of solutions. But going back to the step-by-step methodology of EAFIP, you see that there's different steps. Also, after the state-of-the-art analysis, we go to the market consultation, the development of a business case, the design of a procurement strategy that requires also the considerations on the intellectual property rights, on the type of procedure that we can use, and other provisions in the tender documents for the specific tender. Thus, we go to the procedure itself, the tendering process, the evaluation of proposal, the contract management, the post-contract management, and the evaluations and the lessons learned. So these are the steps that we use to implement public procurement, but we focus many times and very much in depth in the 5 initial steps, because this guarantees the success of the project when we have done a thorough analysis of the needs of the state of the art, and also with engagement with the market to understand better what the market can offer in order to design the procurement strategy. Next slide. So now that we have seen the step-by-step methodology, let's go in depth into pre-commercial procurement. So pre-commercial procurement, as I mentioned, is the procurement of R&D services, and we go to the next slide. What does it mean? That means that we still need to develop the solutions, because there are no solutions available on the market. We have defined it in the functionalities that we required, but we see perhaps that there's a gap. If there's a big gap and there are no solutions that we see will be developed in the near future, then the public buyers can find grounds and justify that we could use the PCP approach. And this PCP approach is an approach that is established in phases, competitive phases, and where the risk and the benefits are shared also with the contractors. And we can go to the next slide. Here we can see you see that the technology readiness levels, as I mentioned before, we have solutions that need still the design, the prototype development, and the testing. And we are going to do that in different phases, competitive phases where different suppliers can compete and can present their solutions. In each of the phases, in the passing to one phase to another, there's evaluation of the results of each phase based on criteria that have been defined in the tender documents. And if the suppliers are successful, they pass to the next phase. In the next phase on prototype development, we do the same thing, evaluate those proposals, and go to the third phase where we have the testing of the prototypes and the solutions. So we have these characteristics of PCP, that's the competitive development phases, the risk-benefit sharing. The procurer does not pay the full cost of the R&D performed under the contract, and there's a clear separation between the procurement of R&D from the deployment of the commercial volumes of end products. So in this PCP, after the tenders have been awarded, contractors sign a framework agreement and then phase contracts for those phases in which they will be participating. And for the next phase, they would sign, for example, phase 2 contract and phase 3 contract if they have been successful. So we go to the next slide. What is the legal framework for PCP? PCP is an approach that falls outside the scope of the European Public Procurement Directives. This is established in Article 14 of the Directive 2014 on Public Procurement, and Article 32 of Utilities Directive. In this case, what does the provision of the directive indicate? That the directive only applies to service contracts of research and development services that comply with 2 conditions, and that is that the benefits accrue exclusively to the contracting authority for its use in the conduct of its own affairs, and the service provided is wholly remunerated by the contracting authority. In PCP, we see though that since the public buyers are not buying the whole intellectual property rights, we have this risk-benefit approach, and the benefits are not accruing exclusively to the contracting authority. Although the PCP falls outside of the European Public Procurement Directives and is regulated or is defined in the Pre-Commercial Procurement Communication of 2007, Driving Innovation to Ensure Sustainable High-Quality Public Service in Europe, the principles of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union are still applicable. That means the principles on transparency, equal treatment, non-discrimination, competition, and proportionality. So for the PCP, it's also important to keep in mind the Commission Staff Working Document and also the 2014 Framework for State Aid for Research, Development, and Innovation. So this is the legal framework under which PCP is applied and can be conducted. Next slide, please. So now let's go to public procurement of innovative solutions, and that's PPI. This is an approach to buy innovative solutions which are not yet available on a large scale. We're talking about higher TRL levels where the solutions are more mature and closer to the market. What are the features or the characteristics of PPI? It does not necessarily include R&D, or there's less R&D to be implemented. The contracting authority is acting as sort of a launch customer of innovative goods or service to trigger the market response. It may include some conformance testing, and what is also very important, this PPI approach falls within the scope of the European Public Procurement Directive. That means that we could choose from any of the procedures in the procurement directives. That means open procedures, restricted procedures, or negotiated procedures, depending on the type of contract and depending on the initial analysis of the type of procurement, of the nature of the procurement, the nature of the solutions, and based on, of course, the results of a market consultation. Next slide, please. So what is the legal framework for public procurement of innovative solutions? As we have said already, it falls within the scope of the European Public Procurement Directives, and you can use any of the procedures contemplated in the directives. These procedures are stated in Article 26 of the 2014-24 Directive on Public Procurement, and also in the Utilities Directive in Article 44. What does it say? That when awarding public contracts, contracting authorities shall apply the national procedures adjusted to be in conformity with this directive. So using the procedures established in the directive and in accordance with the national procedures, the national law that had transposed the directives. Of course, the general principles of the treaty also are applicable for public procurement of innovative solutions. Next slide, please. So we, under the directives, we also have, and under the PPI approach, we have the prototype testing, and that's also an interesting procedure that we can use specifically to test prototypes and not to purchase those, but only to do the testing. So go to the next slide, please. So we see that perhaps these solutions are at TRL 7. So there's a system prototype demonstrated in an operational environment, and we want to test this, and we can use for the specific case the exceptions of the directives for the negotiated procedure without prior publication, just with the aim to test the prototype, not to purchase it. It's just for research and development purposes. So that's another tool in the toolbox, the legal toolbox for procurement. So there was pre-commercial procurement and PPI, and this PPI approach also including prototype testing. Next slide, please. What is the legal framework for prototype testing? It's regulated under public procurement directives, and we have Article 32 of directive, the Public Procurement Directive, that is 2014-24, and Article 50B of the Utilities Directive. So what do we have here in this case? That the negotiated procedure without prior publication may be used where the products involved are manufactured fully and purely for the purpose of research, experimentation, study, or development. And of course, this shall not include quantity production to establish commercial viability or to recover research and development costs. So these are the boundaries and the limits that the law is establishing for the prototype testing. Next slide, please. So this is the nicer part of the presentation. We go to some pre-commercial procurement examples that actually support sustainable energy and climate action plans. I have two examples for you. One to see the process and understand how pre-commercial procurement works. And the other one also to see the technologies that have been developed and the impact these technologies are having in time after having been developing in PCP and then deployed as PPI. Next slide, please. So we have one first case is the AI, Artificial Intelligence for Cities, pre-commercial procurement, accelerating carbon neutrality. This is a case where smart cities, they wanted to speed up and steer the creation of new breakthrough solutions in artificial intelligence, supporting the city's strategic plans to become carbon neutral. And the project wanted to stimulate startups, SMEs, and also bigger companies and other relevant stakeholders to design the innovative solutions using AI, artificial intelligence, AI, and related enabling technologies such as big data, applications, 5G, edge computing, and the Internet of Things. The project was executed and implemented by 6 European cities: Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Helsinki, Greater Paris, Stavanger, and Tallinn. And they had two challenges. One challenge was lot 1 was mobility, and the other challenge was energy, was lot 2. They took into account that the urban areas account for up to 80% of the global energy consumption and around the same share of CO2 emissions. So there's a clear need for cities to be constructive and propositive in order to tackle and improve the way in they were consuming and generating emissions. So this project was supported and funded by European funds for a total cost of 6,877,000. And the coordination of the project was carried out by Forum Virium Helsinki from Finland. Let's go to the next slide. They had these two challenges, mobility and energy, and within these challenges that reflected the real needs of the cities, they had sub-challenges in order to they wanted to test solutions on mobility as a service, traffic flow optimization, optimization of logistics, energy, flexible energy consumption, energy efficiency, development of renewable energy, and this wildcard. And you see that different cities were going to test these different solutions. So for the mobility challenge, Amsterdam, Helsinki, Paris, and Stavanger and Tallinn, they would test the solutions. And for the energy solutions, we have Amsterdam, Helsinki, Paris, and Stavanger as well. Next slide, please. So if we think about pre-commercial procurement in the context for AI for cities, we see that they had the 3 phases, the 3 competitive phases: solution design. They had to do a feasibility study of the proposed solutions and technology, and the supplier had to refine the solution design. In the prototype testing, they need to develop, demonstrate, and validate the prototypes in lab conditions. And in the phase 3, the target was that to have the prototype working in a real-life environment. Next slide, please. So here you see the timeline of the PCP. There was a market consultation, a request for tenders, the solution design, the prototype development, prototype testing, and the exploitation. So starting in 2020 until 2022. Next, please. So you will see that in the tender, there were 97 tenders, 54 for mobility, 43 for energy. And then in the first phase, they have 21 and 20 tenderers, contractors. In the phase two, they had only 10 contractors for one challenge and 10 contractors for the other challenge. At the end, they had in total 7 contractors, 3 for mobility and 4 for energy. Next slide, please. We go faster. So in summary, in the PCP, we had 2 lots, 10 innovative concepts received and 7 real-life solutions prototypes tested. We had a PCP with a duration of 4 months for phase 1, 3 months for phase 2, and 6 months for phase 3. And we found in total 4 different companies with 4 different solutions. They did the pilot test specification and they updated the cost-benefit evaluations at the end of the pilot phase. The IPR and the prototypes remain the property of the companies involved, and the participating partners have a well-defined access to and a right to usage of their the tested prototypes and the intellectual property rights. Next slide, please, because we have 1 minute. Just to go quickly to AquaGreen, this is also an interesting PCP. This is a PCP that started in 2017 by a group of Danish water procurers. And this is as a result of this, with several competitors, AquaGreen was one of them that was successful and did phase 3, developing clean technologies. And this is a startup that has this is my, I will just 1 minute more. This is a startup that has grown after the pre-commercial procurement, and we can see in the next slide that they have developed a solution that turns wastewater into valuable resources, eliminating greenhouse gas emissions, reducing environmental pollution, recirculating nutrients, and realizing cost savings up to 90% of the costs, and with a clean solution. So here you see an important case of circular economy and a solution, clean solutions that have been developed as a result of a PCP. Next slide, and with this I think conclude. Then you can see a little bit of the timeline of AquaGreen. You see in 2017 they started on the PCP, and now they have patented these solutions, and they are supporting 11 out of 17 of the sustainable development goals. And as a result of that, they have been able to offer their technology to different contracting authorities. Next slide, please. Yeah, so let's go quickly to the benefits of PCP. We see that PCP is improving the quality and efficiency of public services. That's the aim, to have better solutions, solutions that save costs, that are more sustainable, that are more green solutions, that are interoperable. And we see from the different PCP projects that is opening markets to small players, SMEs, that it enables procurers to steer industry to meet their needs, and also to avoid this lock-in, because you have several contractors, several competitors in the phases. This is also stimulating the cooperation between universities, larger companies. It's also enabling that the R&D is performed in Europe as such, creating jobs and growth within Europe. If we look into joint cross-border procurement projects of PCP, we see that is evidence that this stimulates a cross-border company growth and facilitates the creation of more open standards and interoperable solutions. Indeed, the fact that the IPR ownership rights are left and vested within contractors has evidenced the reduction of costs, and the R&D risks of procurers is lowered in 50%. And at the same time, this is encouraging wider commercialization of solutions by the vendors. So if there's also in PCP falling outside the procurement directives, there's a possibility to use a place of performance conditions, which can effectively stimulate growth, job and creation in Europe. Next slide, please. So just to finish, what are the conclusions and lessons learned? We see that the European legal framework provides this flexibility. There are different legal tools for innovation procurement, so it's important to understand when and how to use them. Innovation procurement has two modalities: pre-commercial procurement to purchase R&D and public procurement of innovative solutions to buy solutions that are closer to the market in order to improve the services and contribute to the economy and strengthen autonomy and resilience in Europe. And finally, in PCP, that is the purchase of R&D for to buy breakthrough innovation solutions in competitive phases. It's important that we applied a structured way of working, and in that regard, the guidance and the step approach of the EAFIP methodology provides public buyers with good insights and techniques that can help them achieve results. So next slide, and I think that's it. Thank you very much, and a couple of minutes more than my time. Sorry for this, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them. Thanks.
Thank you, Ana Lucia. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we can move on to the next presentation. No questions. So my colleague will continue.
So yeah, thank you very much, Axel, and thank you very much, Ana Lucia, for the introduction in this very important, but also not very easy topic. So we see that the challenges in climate change are growing, and so we need new solutions. And we think, as Climate Alliance, that innovative public procurement is also a method to face tomorrow's climate change challenges, these new solutions. And most of you know the Covenant of Mayors, and most of you are involved in sustainable energy and climate plans. And we think that introducing PCP and PPI, I use now also these shortcuts, can be introduced in SECAPs, in the sustainable energy and climate plans. And we will show you where we think you will have possibilities to introduce them. Next slide, please, Axel. So as most of you know, the Covenant of Mayors, very short, the Covenant of Mayors, then we will show you the SECAP cycle, and then finally we will give an introduction in where we see there are possibilities to introduce PCP in PPI and the different steps of a planning cycle of a climate and energy plan. Next slide, please, Axel. Yeah, the Covenant of Mayors Europe, very short. It's an initiative starting in 2008. Climate Alliance was within the consortium from the beginning. It started with mitigation. Then later on, we integrated adaptation, and later on also energy poverty into the Covenant of Mayors. It's a bottom-up movement. It's very important. The development of the plan should be in a participatory way. Now we have almost 12,000 signatories, and it's embedded in the European, in the international climate and energy policy. There is also the global Covenant of Mayors. Next slide, please, Axel. So formally, the development of a SECAP, when the mayor signs, that's the first step, has 3 steps. The municipality will have to develop an action plan, the SECAP, after 2 years, and then the third step, formal step, is also the submission of a monitoring plan. The most important, the plan includes the vision and the goals for the 3 areas. Then we have the assessment, where we have the so-called baseline emission inventory for the for the mitigation part, and the risk and vulnerability assessment for the climate change adaptation part, as well as the energy poverty assessment or the energy poverty part. And then we have central part, that's the actions to address, to reduce the emissions, to address the main climate hazards, and to tackle energy poverty. Next slide, please, Axel. Here we talk about the development of the action plan. So the action plan should be adapted to the own situation of a city. So you see here, it's important, as I said before, that it's a participatory process where the local stakeholders are involved in the development of the process, but it starts, as the name says, with the commitment, with the signature of the mayor. Then again, you have the risk assessments, the setting of the goals, the development of the climate actions, the implementation, the monitoring, and then the cycle starts again with the improvement of your plan. Next slide, please, Axel. So, as mentioned before, we think that PCP and PPI could be important elements in a SECAP. And in the first phase of the SECAP, in the so-called initiation phase, we think that a SECAP could help to provide, to mobilize on one side political support for pre-commercial procurement. It could help also for reconstructing, diversifying the municipal procurement procedures. On the other side, then PCP could help to achieve, to facilitate the long-term goals in mitigation, adaptation in your municipality, in introducing non-traditional, innovative prototype solution in order to address the new challenges we mentioned. And finally, in this phase, it could also help to attract additional funding, for example, by the Commission. Melissa will show you some possibilities in the end where PCP could attract, or the use of PCP could attract also additional funding. Next slide, please, Axel.
Then I will continue on this one. Another big another opportunity where PCP and Earth observation could play a major role would be in the assessment of climate impacts and risks. So, for example, climate risks are different in every place. So, for example, if you are near a coastal city and are at the coast, or so you have the risks of assessing the coastal erosion or soil salinization. So with Earth observation, municipality can tailor their solutions to the specific situations of your municipality, and then they can take action and reduce future damages or reduce risks. Furthermore, they could direct the research and development via PCP to consider these specific problems in their area, and then foster development to assess those risks and again reduce future damages. When we come to the next slide, there would be the development of the emission inventory. There, this is also a very big part of the SECAP. Every town every municipality has to do this emission inventory, and the data is oftentimes not as reliable or as high quality as one would like. So PCP and Earth observation can play a major role in On the one side, completing existing methodologies for these emission inventories and the second phase to improve this data collection, to make it easier for municipalities to assess the balance of greenhouse gases, emissions, and sinks in their area, in their domain. And the last point, emissions are sometimes very hard to estimate, especially when it comes to wetlands and swamps or forest fires and deforestations. And here, specific tailor-made monitoring tools could be implemented to improve this emission inventory for municipalities. Next one is for Andreas again. Sorry, Andreas, you muted. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's good that I muted, but no, not. So thanks a lot, Axel. So the central part, as mentioned before, of a SecUp are the measures, because we want to have action on the ground, and so we need measures. And so we have to identify measures to reduce emissions or to adapt to climate change. And here for sure we can integrate also PCP here already in the planning stage or also later. And as mentioned before, this could be on for the action on the long-term horizon. On the other side, or at the same time, the municipality could enter, as Axel mentioned, also already in R&D services, products or processes which may not exist on the market already. And for example, regarding illegal waste dumping, predicting the demand for sweet water, solar, wind power forecasting. In all these areas, we see space for PCP. Also, PCP allows the municipality to test prototypes, to improve local prototypes, and offers an opportunity to demand certain design changes to local tailor-made end solution, and also adapted to the specific local needs of the municipality.
And at last, the monitoring and evaluation of actions. So Earth observation could play a major role, of course, in the measurement of your actions, or in the monitoring of your actions, the impact monitoring of your actions. If you, for example, wanted to tackle heat waves, and you can control if you made any changes to the city, or if you made any changes in these heat waves, we have a cooling effect, for example. So Earth observation and the creation of these Earth observation tools via PCP or PPI could bring major benefits. And second, we could monitor progress. So greenhouse gases, as I said, are oftentimes difficult to quantify or measure. So if we want to be effective in our measurements, those tools could be improved, and data collection could be improved. For example, swarms and wetlands could act both as a carbon sink, but also as a carbon producer. So a very close and a very high quality assessment is needed to evaluate your progress in your city. Okay, so that would be it for us. And if there are no questions, we would go to our next presenter, Joanna. I don't think there are any questions, so Joanna, please.
Thank you so much, Axel, and welcome everyone. My name is Ioana Simonaroșca, and today I'm going to present to you what can Earth observation bring to SecUp. And we will start with giving a proper definition of Earth observation, and after that explaining how the climate services can apply to SecUp. So if we go to the next slide, Axel, thank you so much. Well, according to European Space Agency, Earth observation is defined as the process of acquiring observations of the Earth's surface and atmosphere via sensors mounted on satellites, aircrafts, drones, or at the surface, resulting in data in the form of digital imagery. For the last couple of decades, Earth observation has been like an essential tool for monitoring the planet, its environment, the human activities on the planet, but also their impacts. For example, Earth observation has been fundamental to monitor the climate change over the past few years, as satellites provide a clear, uniform, and continuous picture of changes across the entire planet. The vast amount of data collected through the Earth observation is processed and converted into actionable information for the end users across several industries. And two supporting technologies enable this intermediate step of processing Earth observation data, such as artificial intelligence and cloud computing. When it comes to cloud computing, the advancements over the past few years have enabled the efficient storage and processing of digital data, which facilitated the conversion of Earth observation data into useful analytics. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, which is basically the field of computer science dealing with making intelligent computer programs, this has allowed the petabytes of data collected from satellites on a daily basis to be combined effectively, allowing the users to be able to derive the needed insights. So these two together the converge of AI and the cloud computing have enabled the rapid growth of the Earth observation market, leading to the development of several applications of Earth observation. Now, if we go to the next slide, we can discuss about the Copernicus program. So the Copernicus program is one of the largest Earth observation programs in the world, which is managed by the European Commission. And its objective is to monitor and forecast the state of the environment in the land, sea, and in atmosphere in order to support climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies, the efficient management of emergency situation, and the improvement of the security of every citizen. Well, served by the dedicated Copernicus Sentinel satellites, the data collected is then integrated. It is integrated with non-space or non-satellite sources to provide reliable and up-to-date information about 6 key thematics area. And these are land, marine, atmosphere, climate change, emergency management, and security. Well, if we go to the next slide, we can discuss about what is the role of Earth observation in climate services. As we all know, the climate crisis continues to evolve with the ongoing global warming, of course, and both governments and businesses around the world are focusing on climate adaptation, but also mitigation initiatives. In the frame of these initiatives, Earth observation data is expected to play a crucial role in the development of climate services, both focusing on adaptation and mitigation. The satellites, which have been monitoring the Earth continuously and helping our understanding of climate change, they provide vital information regarding the state, but also the evolution of the environment, as well as regarding the human activities on the planet. As a result, climate services applicable to several industries are expected to integrate Earth observation data into their products in order to take into account the environmental factors and changes over the time. For example, several emerging climate services have been already integrated Earth observation data into their development, from providing extreme weather alerts for better disaster preparedness to both governments but also businesses, to delivering crop level insights to farmers, enabling water savings, but also improving overall the yields. These are a part of the numerous and various climate services that has been developed and they are still and they are also available on the market nowadays. Well, how can Earth observation-based climate services apply to SECAP? Well, if we go to the next slide, thank you so much, Axel. In the frame of our project Protect, we were focusing on 5 application domains, and these are marine and coastal environments, energy and utilities, sustainable urban communities, agriculture, forestry, and other land uses, but also civil security and protection. And due to the topic of the presentation of today, we chose to present the definition for energy and utilities and sustainable urban communities, but also some examples of usage for you. So if you go to the next slide, Axel, thank you so much. In the frame of our project, we have defined energy and utilities domain as an inclusion of all activities related to water supply, sewage services, electricity, dams, and natural gas. When it comes to the climate services, they rely on Earth observation data for forecasting, but also nowcasting, planning and optimization of renewable energy, which can be linked with onshore and offshore wind, solar, tidal, and wave, but also monitoring of strategic of the utilities sector infrastructures like dams and pipelines. So if we go to the next slide now, we have an example of usage here. So when it comes to this application domain, we have a category called environmental impact monitoring. And the example of usage is the environmental impact assessment of energy, but also for mineral resources plan. So you can have a better understanding when it comes to the list of applications that it can be in this application domain. Well, Earth observation can support the mitigation of energy mining effects of the environment through continuous monitoring of the relevant environmental characteristics and through the capacity of Earth observation to detect changes. Relevant products and services include coastal ecosystem monitoring, water quality monitoring, air quality monitoring, erosion monitoring, pollution, but also vegetation monitoring, and many other types of other monitorings. And in some cases, Earth observation products could also include the production of environmental impact assessment certificate. And now if we go to the next slide, we can discuss about the sustainable urban communities. Well, in the frame of our project, the green and sustainable urban communities operate their human, natural, and financial capital with the goal to meet current but also future needs in a sustainable manner while prioritizing a long-term perspective. When it comes to the climate services, they rely on Earth observation data for assessing and forecasting air quality and pollen concentration and assisting urban planning and operations like monitoring and preventing heat islands, building greener cities, and optimizing green cities. And in particular, when these are implemented, implementing elements of smart infrastructure. Now, an example of this, if we move to the next slide, it could be an environmental monitoring as well, but in this one, it's focusing more on carbon monitoring. So a list of applications that you can take into consideration can be using satellite data and in situ measurements. The EO can support the measurement, but also the reducing and monetizing the greenhouse gas emissions in the cities. And for the moment, these are all my examples and all my information that I can provide to you. I hope it was super clear. And if not, please ask any kind of questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonna. So I don't see any questions right now. Thank you for your insight again, but I think we would just continue with Melissa.
Thank you very much, Axel. Good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa Campagno from GAC Group, and I'm the coordinator of the Protect project. I hope that you are enjoying this webinar and that you find the different interventions interesting so far. Now that you are a bit more familiar concepts of pre-commercial procurement, public procurement of innovation, Earth observation, and climate services, and the many benefits that they can bring. I'm going to need 10 more minutes of your attention to tell you a bit more about the PROTECT project and the unique opportunity that it offers to European municipalities, cities, and regions. The PROTECT project combines these three concepts, that we've been through so far, PCP, Earth observation, and climate services, into one project and one very ambitious objective, that is to support the preparation of a 19 million euros Horizon Europe pre-commercial procurement that will open next month on 17th of October. This PCP represents the largest pre-commercial procurement ever funded by the European Commission. So you may ask yourself, why is the European Commission investing so much in PCP? Well, as my colleague very clearly explained so far, pre-commercial procurement has the potential to reduce the fragmentation of the public demand, meaning the public sector needs, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, it helps to create a bridge between a more uniform public demand and aggregated needs and the market of Earth observation and climate services. So thanks to a better understanding of public sector's needs and a better knowledge of the market maturity, capacity, but also potential, new innovative tools can be developed to help overcome today's and tomorrow's climate-related challenges. PROTECT is your gateway to achieve this, and I'm going to tell you now how you can be part of this experience. Next slide, please, Axel. So before I go on, I just want to mention that all the slides and the presentations and the links will be shared with you after the event, so you can access all the relevant links and material. So what is this future PCP about, and what does the European Commission expect from it exactly? And importantly, what does it mean in the current context of the PROTECT project, and what support is PROTECT offering to you? This pre-commercial call is part of Cluster 6 of the Horizon Europe funding program and aims to support innovative governance approach. So by supporting this initiative, the European Commission calls on European public authorities and public buyers to join forces and to collaborate to collectively shape the next innovative solution that will allow a smarter, faster, a more systemic and effective adaptation to climate change. So in doing so, the European Commission expects to finance the customization and development of a tested service or several tested services that rely on Earth observation data and tools to help meet the needs of a group of buyers who face a common challenge related to the effects of climate change. To be eligible for this pre-commercial procurement, this common challenge should be considered as unmet, meaning that no solution exists or has been identified on the market yet, at least as part of the PROTECT works. So indeed, all consortia willing to submit a proposal in response to this PCP must be coordinated by a lead buyer, a public authority, from a European member states. The PCP call will open, as I said, on October 17th, so next month, and will close on February 28, 2024. The European Commission will organize several info days in order to shed light on the different calls, which will be part of Cluster 6, and these will take place on the 27th and 28th of September. The EC will mention PROTECT and the PROTECT project and website as a main reference and source to find materials in order to best prepare your application to the PCP call. The current description of the PCP call and what the European Commission expects, the outcomes that the project is supposed to bring, are available at the link here on the screen that you will be able to access later on. And the description of the call is also available on the Funding and Tenders portal. And you will see that it clearly indicates that proposals should build on the outcome of PROTECT activities and results. So what is PROTECT doing exactly, and how you can benefit from it? We will answer this question in the next slide. Axel, please, next slide. So I'm not going to bore you too much with our project methodology. That's really not what interests us today, but this figure nicely depicts the two main objectives of PROTECT. So concretely, PROTECT has two main objectives. On the one hand, it helps to support the creation and the formation of different groups of buyers. and it offers to assist them in the identification of their needs and the formulation of concrete common challenge that are eligible for the pre-commercial procurement, and these buyers should be willing to jointly tackle this challenge through a PCP process. On the other hand, the second objective is to reach a critical mass of public buyers, public authorities, to grow their awareness, knowledge, and skills in innovation procurement, Earth observation, and climate services, to empower them to adopt a more collaborative and innovative governance approach to public procurement and to climate adaptation. So on the left side of the figure, you can see that Protect proposes a set of capacity building activities intended to the largest possible community of authorities and buyers, to encourage them and to equip them with the right knowledge and tools to undertake innovation procurement approaches in the future, and to explore the potential of Earth observation to solve climate issues. On the right side of the figure, Protect proposes to bridge the supply and demand of Earth observation-based climate services by facilitating dialogue between the public sector and the market around unmet needs, with a view to support the creation of a group of buyers willing and ready to candidate for this future PCP call by preparing a project application that describes their common challenge. So you may now wonder about the kinds of challenges that have been identified by Protect so far. So next slide, please. As a result of the market gap analysis that was carried out during the first year of life of the Protect project, we conducted various stakeholder consultation methods and tools, and notably surveys and pain point workshops with public buyers and other representatives from public authorities. We were able to identify 4 topic challenges related to climate change that appear to be the most pressing issues which are faced at the moment by public authorities. The first one has to do with floods. So we call it the floods challenge. And here public authorities are looking for tools that can help to map, predict, and prevent floods in all areas. The second challenge that we have is the fire challenge. And here public authorities are interested in finding solutions to predict, prevent, and track and trace the different fires in different situations, whether it is from hazardous waste or forest fires in different situations. The third challenge is the water challenge. And here public authorities have told us that they would like to have access to climate resilient solutions for predicting, planning, and managing the supply and the demand of water, whether it is fresh water or marine and coastal environments. And the fourth challenge is about sustainable infrastructure. And here the goal of public authorities, the desired goal of public authorities, is to find sustainable and resilient redevelopment tools and renovation solution, restoration solutions of buildings and neighborhoods, both in rural and urban areas. So these 4 topics, these 4 topics have been identified together with the public buyers of the Protect community, and they are going to be further explored in the coming weeks, actually, and the scope will be refined during the second series of pain point workshops that will be organized and animated by our partner Covers. So Ana Lucia will be guiding you through this pain point workshop with public buyers, so that that will take place on the September 12th and September 13th. During these pain point workshops, we will also work with public buyers on the definition and description of the desired and expected functionalities that the future climate service should bring. Now, if you are a municipality which recently experienced one of these 4 challenges, or that has been struggling in the past with one of these 4 challenges, and you would like to find a satisfying solution, this is your chance to be proactive and to take action in the fight against climate change. And I'm going to tell you now how you can get involved and join us if you are willing to and ready to do so. Next slide, please, Axel. So how can you get involved and what are your options? Well, you have 3 options that offer to you. You can choose to simply sign up on the Protect community and join us to gain access to awareness raising and capacity building materials and participate in activities to grow your knowledge and skills on innovation procurement, Earth observation, and climate services. And this will allow you to better navigate this world and identify your best opportunities and levers in the future. Your second option is in the case that you may be unsure about your real challenges and needs, and you may need perhaps more time and analysis to decide which innovation procurement approach is best suited to your needs, if at all suited to your needs. So you may be interested in getting assistance in that process by taking part in our pilot consulting activities. So here you can apply for free on-demand consulting services that will be provided to you by the Protect project team. And finally, if the Protect project mission and objectives may echo your situation, and you can identify yourself to one of these 4 topic challenge that we've discussed as your municipality's most pressing challenge. Well, and if you want to urgently get in touch with the Protect project team to help overcome this challenge, you can decide to join an existing group of buyers who will candidate to the future PCP. You should also join us on the 12th and the 13th of September during the 2nd series of Pain Point workshops, because this workshop will be your occasion to describe your challenge and your need in greater details. And we want to also hear from you what are your main challenges and most pressing challenges and needs, but you will also have the opportunity to hear about those faced by your peers. But there is more activities coming up. So next slide, please. Next to the Pain Point workshops with public buyers, the Protect team will organize a set of other important activities. So there will be also e-pitching sessions conducted with providers of Earth observation-based climate services who will come and pitch their solutions to your needs. And they will also tell us about their ongoing effort in research and development. The second important activities is the training webinars that will be organized by the EIT Climate Kick, and they will help you decide whether innovation procurement and Earth observation are the right approach for you. And finally, we will be conducting 4 open market consultations, each focusing on one of the 4 Protect challenges, and they will be aimed at consulting market providers about their potential to address the public sector needs from the public buyers that we have discussed. More information about upcoming activities, Protect activities, are available on the Protect website, of course. So we will be sharing this link with you. You can, of course, navigate our website, stop by and make sure that you save your seats for these exciting activities. But you can also, of course, reach out to me or to any colleagues in the webinar today for more information. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention. And I assume that the floor is now open for questions, if there are questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, the floor would be now open for questions. I can stop sharing for a second. We can see each other. Yes, are there any questions about topics we went over today, about the upcoming call, about PCP or PCP and CCAPs, Earth observation? You could raise your hand or type it in the chat if you have an issue you would like to talk to with us.
Maybe then I will have a question to Ana Lucia. Formally in the CCAP municipalities have only restricted time to to develop or to develop the plan. So and we know that procurement activities could also be time consuming. So what do you think is the average of time you will need for a PCP?
Yeah, that's a good question, Andreas. It depends on a case-by-case basis. So the complexity of the nature of the solutions that need to be developed. But you see, in one of the cases that we presented, the artificial intelligence for cities, you see that there were a period of 2 years of the PCP, including the market consultation. So yeah, it would differ from project to project. Yeah, but I would say in some cases it could be 18 months that a PCP could work. It depends on the planning, and of course, as we do normally, we design the setup of the pre-commercial procurement based on the knowledge and the experience and the advice of the technical experts. But then, of course, we also challenge these findings with the market and see whether this is feasible or not. So that's why it's so important to have the market consultation to see whether, 3-4 months or 6 months for the development of prototypes is enough in that case, and the testing. So it would differ on a case-by-case basis. Yeah, that we need to take into account. And if we think about the preparatory phase, the activities before the actual tender, the actual pre-commercial procurement, we need to allow for a thorough approach. So have enough time to do the state-of-the-art analysis, to search for patents, for standards, and to prepare a good business case. So need to anyway plan several months for the preparatory steps of pre-commercial procurement. So yeah, I would say if you have a there's some questions in the chat. Yeah, the PCP call targets all types of contracting authorities and from all levels. Oh yeah, that's you, Melissa. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that is correct. Any contracting authority could actually decide to implement a PCP and join the PCP, in this case in the preparation of the PCP of Protect. It's welcome to be part of the team. Yeah, but I hope I answered your question, Andres. We have PCPs of 1 year or 2 years. So it is really something that we need to evaluate based on the knowledge and the facts of each case.
Thank you very much. I think in the measure part, okay, if let's say PCPs are involved in the development of measures coming out of a SECAP, I see no problem, because then you have a lot of time. But if you need the PCP in the process, for example, like Axel mentioned, in order to improve the baseline emission inventory or the risk analysis, then we are a little bit more time sensitive. But still, I think also here there are possibilities. So thank you very much.
That is important to plan ahead already these innovation procurement initiatives. So to have it as part of the whole procurement strategy, let's say, to already have, okay, what kind of also assign some budgets for R&D and plan ahead and do a thorough understanding of the needs, thinking about the future. We see different projects and different cases that thanks to a proper planning and implementing PCP ahead of time, we could have solutions, for example, for the pandemic, for the COVID. Disinfection robots were ready for the pandemic, and because there was a pre-commercial procedure within the timeline that was before the pandemic, actually. So these disinfection robots were able to be deployed already when COVID-19 hit. Yeah, so that's the importance of planning ahead and having these needs analysis at an early stage.
Thank you, Ana Lucia. Also going back to the question of Nadej, I hope I pronounce your name well. I think even a region has more, usually regions, at least, okay, okay, we are based in Germany. In Germany, they have more possibilities, so usually they have more capacities. So that may be even an advantage if a region is going for the call, and the region still then could involve municipalities within the region. That would be also and be the leader of, let's say, the PCP.
Yes. Yes, it's important when you mentioned the leadership in the PCP. Normally we have a lead procurer that would be have the mandate of other procurers to procure for them and agree on the specification, the functional specifications, and find interoperable solutions. That's something that is one of the benefits if you do a joint cross-border procurement, and you can think up front of these specifications to allow for interoperability. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ana Lucia, Andreas. If there are not any more issues coming up and no more questions, I would suggest we would just stop early and keep it short. And so on this note, if nobody has anything to say, I would like to thank our speakers and you as participants. And of course, yeah, the recording will be some way uploaded to the project website. You can look at the slides at the website then too. And yeah, then thank you, everyone. And we see each other at the next Painpoint webinar.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
keep
you,
in touch.
everyone. Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.